Okay, so we're talking about section 5.4 and we're talking about normal distribution. So data will fall normally onto a bell curve. So this you might want to copy in your book, and my suggestion is you copy it out with the percents and then you don't fill in the bottom here. Okay, you'll wait because we'll be able to use it over and over in the class. So if you draw it in pen and then you just fill out the bottom in pencil, then you'll be able to erase it all the time and reuse it. Okay, so what this is saying is this bell curve says that, and they're calling this U shape, that U is actually the average. Like we always said it was, sorry, it's not going to work, but we always said it was the average, like that. Okay, so the U is just the average. Okay, and then what this means is this is one standard deviation away from the average, and then the next one is 2 standard deviations. So all you do is you take the average and then you add the standard deviations away. Okay, and what this information is this tells you on the average 34% of the information, so 68% of the information falls 1 standard deviation away from both sides of the average. Okay, so if you're 1 standard deviation away from the left or the right, then that's where 68% of your information falls within. Okay, and this bell curve, you'll notice that the percents, if you added them up, it's, and this one's like, I think it's 0.25. Right there. One side equals 0.5 and one side equals 0.5 because the whole thing adds up to 1. Okay, so these percents, they all add up to 1, meaning 100%. Okay, so the farther you get away from your standard deviation, the smaller the percents get. Okay, so I'll give you time to copy that down and then we'll do an example and I'll show you how it works. Just a correction, this is 0.15 in there. I think I had 0.25. Okay, so then that would mean that this whole side equals 0.5 and the other side equals 0.5. Okay, so we're going to look at an example in the textbook. It's on page 245. I could probably find it on here, but it doesn't like when I write on it, so I'll just read it. Where are we? Okay, so it says Jim raises Siberian Husky sled dogs at his kennel. He knows from the data that he has collected over the years that the weights of the adult male dogs are normally distributed. So as soon as you see that word, normally distributed, you think, okay, I got to use that bell curve. Okay, normal distribution, I'm going to use that bell curve. Okay, so it says with a mean, so the average is 52.5 pounds and a standard deviation of 2.4 pounds. Jim uses this information to sketch a normal curve. Okay, so he's going to sketch the curve, and then it says, the question is, what percent of adult male dogs at Jim's kennel would you expect to have a weight between 47.7 and 54.9? Okay, so what you do is, and I'll show you just right here, we drew that bell curve, right? So if we were answering this question, we would put the average right in the middle. So they said the average weight was 52.5, so you'd put 52.5 in the middle of your curve. And then you would add a standard deviation every time. Okay, and then if you're going behind, you would subtract the standard deviation. So the standard deviation in this question was 2.4, right? Okay, I'll try to... Okay, so it's 2.4. So all we're going is 52.5 plus 2.4, and you get 54.9. Then you plus 2.4 again, and you get 57.3. Plus 2.4 again, and you get 59.7. Okay? Then on this way, you're subtracting. So you're going 52.5, subtract 2.4, and you get 50.1. And then you subtract 2.4, get 47.7, subtract and get 45.3. Okay, does everybody see where those numbers came from? And then the question was, what is the percent of male dogs between 47.7 pounds and 54.9 pounds? So here's 47.4 and here's 54.9. So you need to add the percent up, which is between that, whoop, I went too far. This area, okay? It's not working, but okay, so if you look in your bell curve, because mine doesn't have the percents, this was 34% right here, this was 34%, and then this was 13.5. Okay, so just so I can write here, so I would go 34% plus 34% plus 13.5, and I would get what? 81.5%. So I would say 81.5% of the dogs have a weight between 47.7 and 54.9 pounds. Okay, that's how many dogs fall between that weight. Okay, so all you're doing is plugging the information on the bell curve, and then you're looking at the percent and adding up. Okay, if I was to ask you specifically, like say I said there's 1,000 dogs. This guy has 1,000 of these dogs. So if I asked you, this is if I asked you what the percent is, but if I asked you how many dogs fall between those weights, then you need the percent, and you change it to a decimal, so you divide by 100, and you get 0.815, and you times it by how many dogs, or whatever we're talking about. Okay, so you would times it by 1,000. So 1, 2, 3 decimal spots, so that would be 815 dogs out of the 1,000 fall between that weight of 47.7 pounds and 54.9. So almost all of the dogs fall between that weight. Okay?